to my live reaction to the Fantastic Four First Steps. So I went to go and see it with my about 2 or 3 hours ago. Just literally got back to the house now. Sorry that this is after being advertised, but basically, I ended up. I'm a massive pro wrestling fan. And I just heard the news about Hulk Hogan, so I've just been doing a live stream of that basically. And long story short, I haven't. I usually prepare notes for like my movie podcast, and I prepared absolutely nothing, so I'm going to have to do it from memory. I've not even got my laptop to refer to me, so I don't know how this is going to go at all. So please, I do sincerely apologise if this comes across as slightly less than professional. So many apologies for that. Also, I had to change my thumbnail as well because I got a movie poster while I was there, so I've just changed that to the movie poster. So yeah, sorry if this looks really, really rubbish, but yeah. Also, as well, I've just put out post-credit spoilers on the channel. So hopefully they'll be dropping any time now. Fingers crossed. They're just loading up in a minute. So yeah. Just to make you guys aware, so I do movie podcasts on this channel as well as all the other stuff I do. So this is going to be under Geek Boy, a movie podcast. I'll go through this at the end, but basically, I do pro wrestling, Comic Cons. I'm actually watching San Diego Comic Con at the minute. I do Liverpool. I do wrestling podcasts, toy hunts, horror, blah 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 blah. Loads of different stuff. So just check out the channel. Obviously, it's Geek Boy Meta. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, feel free to do so. So yeah, it's been a bit of a day today, to be honest. So I ended up started off doing a podcast about AEW wrestling fans. Then I heard the news about Alexander Isak, so I did a Liverpool live stream. Was trying to get ready to go and see my family to watch Fantastic Four, which is what you're all here for. And then I got the news about Hulk Hogan. I did a live reaction to that as well as soon as I came back. And basically, long story short, I have prepared no notes of any description whatsoever, so I'm just going to do this from memory. So please just bear with me. Right, first things first, Fantastic Four, is it any good? The answer to the question is yes. I thought it was absolutely bloody brilliant. There were some missteps, but not very many. But it biggest compliment I can pay the film is that basically it flew by. It absolutely flew by. I thought it was superb from start to finish, and I think it clocks in at just under 2 hours or just over 2 hours. Honestly, it felt like you were watching it for like an hour and a half, something along them lines. It was superb, absolutely brilliant. I think with Marvel now, I think we can safely say they are back to quality now, because they've had a run of really good things. So obviously last year you had Wolverine, Deadpool, which was fantastic. You had Agatha Harkness, which was absolutely outstanding. You had the Spider-Man, cartoon. I forgot the name of it. That was really good as well. Obviously, I'm a bit divisive. I haven't actually finished watching all of Ironheart myself yet, so I'll reserve judgment on that. And then obviously we've now had Fantastic Four, which was absolutely brilliant, and Daredevil, which I thought was good as well. So it's just seems to be, look, it's not pretty, it's not end game level and before, not as of yet, but they are getting back to something like the quality that they once had. So yeah, for anyone worrying, don't worry, the film is fantastic. So I'll do a light description of the film, and then I'll go on spoilers, and I'm going to spoilers. So basically, film starts off with oldie woldy sort of Fantastic Four titles, like you would have for retro 60s. And then from there, we get a scene of Reed Richards and Sue Storm. And Reed Richards is he's looking around for like his aspirin or whatever it was. I forget what he was looking for. And Sue Storm was basically like, well, can you wait a minute? Because she was trying to do a pregnancy test. Does the pregnancy test, which is obviously Franklin Richards. And then the film just goes into the Fantastic Four from there. So they've got show with Rod Gilbert. I forget the He was really good actually. And what they do, instead of retreading the whole thing of how the Fantastic powers, which has obviously been done to death, and none of us need to see that. We all know they got the powers at the end of the day. They sort of just like get Rod Gilbert to do like a bit of an exposition dump, if I can even say the word. So he takes it through how the Fantastic Four got the powers, the mission to space, how they now protect the world. There was a really cool scene with um, Gigantica. The basically the first ever cover Fantastic Four, the big monster where all the Fantastic Four are fighting him. It starts with G, and I forget what the monster is, but they show them fighting them. There's interactions with Mole Man and Red Devil. Um, some of them you see on screen, some of them you don't see on screen. But basically, the point is they recap all of the Fantastic Four's history through the Rod Gilbert show, which I thought was really doing it. And it's just like, well, we haven't got to bugger about basically with like, oh, how did the Fantastic Four get the powers, blah 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 blah. So it was a really good new way, inventive way of doing it. So that was pretty cool. After that, basically, we go into the sort of next scene. So there's bits and pieces. So you get Ben Grimm being a bit, well, obviously he's very sad about having a rock face as opposed to a human face, as we all would be. And he's basically, pardon the expression, but chatting up this woman who works at like around the corner from the Baxter building. And they all show bits and pieces of what they're doing. Talk with Phil. I talk with Phil. You're all right, mate. And yeah, so sort of after that, um, one thing I loved about the film, it wasn't one set piece, another set piece, another set piece where you've got to keep working things out. It just, there's only really like four, arguably five sections in the film, basically. So after they've introduced the Fantastic Four, basically the warnings for Galactus come within, I don't know, half an hour of the film starting. So obviously the Silver Surfer comes through, and she obviously does the speech that we've all heard on the trailers. Herald of Galactus, and this world will be eaten by Galactus, basically. So she does that. Johnny Storm chases her, and then she kind of speaks her own language to Johnny Storm. He goes back to the Baxter building. So that scene in the trailers where he's falling away from the board like that isn't actually in the film, so it's another Marvel misdirect, basically. Fantastic Four immediately go into action, rework out where Galactus is, can they go and basically sort him out and save the planet. So they tell all the people of the Earth who love the Fantastic Four that they're going back into space and they're going to go and basically, well, for want of a better phrase, knack Galactus, essentially. So Fantastic Four go off in space. Spaceship docks into this like of a. It's like I'm trying to think how to describe it. They're kind of fly into this apparatus that takes them into like essentially like hyperdrive, like Star Wars. It was very Star Wars-ish actually. Um, that takes them to Galactus's planet or facility, wherever he is. Herald Silver Surfer comes along, drags over, and then you meet Galactus. And if anyone is wondering about the quality and the rendering and the design of Galactus, not worry, it is brilliant. The CGI department of Marvel, shout out to them because it was absolutely brilliant. I mean, it was, I wouldn't say it was scary. It wasn't scary, obviously, but like if I was a kid watching that, if I was 6 or 7 years old, I would be slightly like, what's that? It was really, really well done. I won't try and explain it, just obviously go and see the film for you. Well, obviously, if you're watching this, please turn me off now if you have not watched this film, because there'll be loads of a main relationship. Yeah, happily married 15 years, mate. Thank you very much. Yeah, so basically they speak with Galactus, and at this point as well, Sue Storm's actually heavily pregnant, and she actually ends up having the baby during the whole chase scene with the Herald. So Silver Surfer basically chases the Fantastic Four away. Um, okay, cool. Um, and then Sue Storm gives birth during the chase scene, which was quite dramatic actually. Fantastic Four land back on Earth, but then they've got to tell the whole of the human population, well, population of Earth, that basically Galactus wants their new Beyblade, which is Franklin Richards. So Franklin, basically, if Galactus gets Franklin Richards, then he'll leave the Earth alone and spare it. Which obviously he probably wouldn't have done that anyway. But and then basically everyone turns on the Fantastic Four, and it's kind of like this real human drama where it's like, I know this is really really harsh, but you're if you've got 65, I don't know, God knows how many people have got this, but if you have like 7, 8 billion people on the planet, should you sacrifice 8 billion people for one baby? It's kind of like one of those real moral dilemmas. I mean, obviously, it's not called sacrificing a baby. At the same time, can you justify killing millions of children and babies to save one brand new baby owned by the Fantastic Four? So it's kind of this whole moral thing. So Fantastic Four get pelters, everyone turns on them, trying to work out what it is they're going to do. Sue Storm, arguing, eventually goes out and speaks to like the baying crowds outside the Baxter building, and basically says that we'll deal with it as a family and that we all need each other. And the crowd sort of go, "Yay, we were the Fantastic Four," and that was one of the only missteps. Because the journalists, when they first came back, were like proper giving it the big one, telling them they need to sacrifice the baby. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh well, Sue Storm's spoken now. Yeah, that's fine. We'll die, and I'm like, it's a bit of a 360 in the space of like 3 minutes, but still. So that was one of the only things that was a bit like, what's going on? And then, long story short, um, basically F4 F of Galactus. Um, at this point as well, the Silver Surfer's kind of turned face a little bit because Johnny Storm basically speaks to her about the reason why she became the Herald and all the her sacrificing herself to save her family and this, that, and the other, and that kind of comes into play at the end of the film. But Galactus basically comes to the planet and basically rips it a new one, tramples everything. The Fantastic Four basically set up this plan where they're going to try and trick Galactus into thinking he's got Franklin Richards and then basically shove him into this wormhole and put him in a different dimension that they can't reach. And then towards the end, through various ways and means, Franklin and is about to, he's like basically he's got him in like this like a Darth Vader thing. He sort of raises his hands up and appears floating in front of him, and he's basically like, right, your life force now will mean that I no longer have to be the Hungerer, which is the whole reason why he's chasing Franklin because of his power levels, obviously, because Franklin's like an Omega level mutant, essentially, basically. But before he can get Franklin and go back into the portal, Sue Storm basically using her fields and her powers. Basically, I can't do it obviously, but she's like that, and she manages to pull Galactus back with Franklin just completely on her own because the rest of the Fantastic Four have been beaten up, and ends up getting Galactus to the point where he ends up in the portal. And then they think they've done it, and it's taken all Sue Storm's powers, and then she drops to the floor. Johnny Storm's basically can see Galactus sort of wavering next to the portal, and he's like, tell Franklin that his uncle loves him, and he's about to go steaming into Galactus. But then the Silver Surfer turns from basically out of nowhere, and knocks Johnny Storm's he's the one who actually pushes Galactus in to the portal. So he's not dead. Just to clarify, and obviously you guys that will know this, because you've watched the film. Like I said, please do not be watching this if you've not watched the film. He's gone through the portal, so Galactus is still alive, but where he is now in the multiverse, who knows? Perhaps he shows up in the events of Doomsday, or maybe even Secret Wars. I'd imagine the next time we'll see it will be Secret Wars. I can't imagine Galactus. Also, shout out while I'm saying it to Ralph Ineson, Yorkshire, one of our own. He was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. I see what people mean about the voice now. Obviously, I've seen Ralph act before, and he's a very, very, very talented stage actor in this, that, and the other. But he was absolutely brilliant, and his facial sort of his facial expressions match Galactus entirely. So whoever looks at Ralph Ineson and thought Galactus, fair play to you. And then, yeah, at the end, Fantastic Four, so Ben Grimm, Human Torch, and Reed all run back to where Sue Storm's dropped, and then basically she's died. And it was kind of a bit of a swerve, because there was a bit where Reed tried to revive her, and genuinely, I think people in the cinema thought, oh, Sue Storm's dead. And it's like, well, what the hell are they going to do now? They can't call it the Fantastic Three. What's all that about? Anyway, so Reed Richards has got he's crying and everything, and obviously they're all crying. Sue Storm is obviously dead on the floor. And then basically Franklin ends up on top of his mom. And then he sort of touches the neck, and then she basically comes back to life, essentially. So Sue Storm is definitely not dead. So Sue Storm lives. And then at the end, they go back to the Rod Gilbert show, and then all the alerts go off on the phone like they do in the trailer. So Rod lifts the curtain, and the Fantastic Four are nowhere to be seen. They've gone off on another mission, basically. There is a quite funny scene at the end where all the male members of the Fantastic Four are trying to get the baby buggy into the Fantastic Car, and they're all desperately messing about with seatbelts and this, that, and the other. So yeah, that was quite funny. And Sue Storm was basically as the woman sat there going, "Oh, for the love of Christ Almighty!" So yeah, that was quite cool. That was quite funny, actually. Right. So, and then basically you go into the end of the film. That's roughly what happens in the actual film itself. Right. I'll give a spoiler alert again. Anyone who has not seen this film, and please do not be watching it from this point onwards, because I've kind of described the whole film as it is. If you do not want to know the post-credit scene stuff, and if you've just accidentally clicked on this, do not under any circumstances watch the next 5 to 6 minutes. Right, I'll give you 5 seconds. Good, still here. Excellent. Right, so there's 2 credits. Let's go through the NAF one first, because there's the one at the end and there's the one at the middle. The one at the end, basically, fall happens, essentially. So what they do is they show the old Fantastic Four cartoon in the 60s. I'm not sure if it's the it didn't look official to me, because it didn't look like the one I used to watch. It might have just been one made up for the film. I'm not sure. If anyone knows, give us a shout. And then Herbie comes along and just takes got that Roger Moore swagger. Cool, nice one. Yeah, it has a little bit, actually. Yeah. And he basically Herbie comes along and just turns off the TV, and everyone in the cinema was like, "What is that?" So it's continuing this really slightly annoying thing that Marvel the habit of doing, especially over the last 7 or 8 years. Obviously, starting from the Captain America things in Spider-Man: Homecoming, and then you had that ridiculous scene at the end of the last Captain America. You see the leader saying he's coming, and it's like, well, yeah, we all knew that something was coming. What is that meant to be, kind of thing? James Gunn's kind of started, it was like, there's only one DCEU film so far, which is Superman. Scene with, I mean, I love Superman. I thought it was fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but Mr. Terrific at the end where he put a brick out of place or something like that, and that was the end credit scene. I was like, what is that meant to be? It's kind of like trolling the fan, and it's like we get it that it's ingrained to our culture now, but people like end credit scenes, people like mid credit scenes. Everyone has to be a complete knockout, but it's like this whole thing of haha, let's have some fun with it. It's like, yeah, maybe let's not have fun with it. Maybe just do an actual post credit scene, please. That is, it doesn't have to be a knockout, but have it some. It doesn't have to always be a guest star. It can be a whatever, but at least make it interesting. The whole thing of let's have some fun with it and take the piss out of the audience is getting really, really old now, and it is slightly annoying. I've got to be honest, but anyway, that's besides the point. The first post-credit scene, so the mid. Oh, I'm just looking at Galactus at the moment. Actually, like I said, I've got San Diego Comic Con at the minute. There's a massive Galactus statue. That's really, really cool. Sidebar, by the way, I'm also covering San Diego Comic Con the next 4 days, and there'll be lots of alerts of trailers and things that happen, blah, 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 blah. So just keep an eye out for the channel on that as well. Yeah, so the really important thing in credit scene, it cuts to a scene where it says 4 years later. Now, I think F4, I'm not entirely sure on the year. I want to say it was 66, 65. So I'm assuming now in their universe, which is the 828 universe, that was in reference to as well. That was a nice touch. I'm assuming it's about 1969, 1970, something along them lines, give or take. So, Sue Storm's on the couch reading to Franklin. There's no other members of F4. I mean, I don't know if there were any in the building or meant to be in the building at the time, but she's reading, and she's reading like this ridiculously complicated book, and she shouts over to Herbie the robot, "Have we got Franklin's kiddie book?" Sue ends up finding it, comes back, and then her face just drains.